So why should we have a minimum wage? Why should we have a living wage? Why should the minimum wage be a living wage? If we raise the minimum wage to a living wage, won't that cause people to lose their jobs because of all this added cost to the businesses? If you're a business person, it's very unlikely that you break even on the cost of the labor of your employees. Or if that is the case, you're probably bad at business. Hiring an employee by a business person, by an employer, is only done if the resulting value created by their labor is well above the cost of that labor. But won't a higher minimum wage result in higher costs to the consumer? Wouldn't doubling the wage cause the price of my fast food meal to double? Again, no. It's easy to understand why people would think that doubling the wage would result in the doubling of prices. But what's missing from that equation is the profit that's extracted from the labor of those employees. People don't realize that the labor that goes into producing a product is necessarily compensated at far below productivity. That's where profit comes from. The difference between the price of the product to the consumer and then the actual cost to the employer to make that product. So contained here in the cost to the employer is raw materials, other external costs, and the cost of labor. So raw material costs, those costs are generally pretty low. Labor is able to take, let's say, 50 cents of raw materials and turn that into an $8 fast food meal. Granted, you also have to pay for the cost of labor. If there was no profit, a worker earning the federal minimum wage would only need to make roughly one $8 meal every hour in order to pay their wage. One meal an hour at $8 an hour to pay their wage. So let's say you have a staff of 4 people working in the restaurant to make it a little more realistic. Those 4 employees would only need to make and sell one $8 meal every 15 minutes in order to pay their day's wages. That's only 32 meals over the course of an entire day, over an 8-hour shift, to pay for raw material costs and for the labor cost. But as somebody who's actually worked in fast food, I can tell you firsthand that in the course of an 8-hour shift, you'll make a lot more than 32 meals. Granted, there's some busy times where you might make over 100 meals in 1 hour, and other times where an hour had passed and not a single meal is sold at all. So given that, it's probably closer to an average of 32 meals an hour, not 32 meals a day. So at $8 a meal, 32 meals per hour generates gross for the employer $256 an hour. So accounting for the raw materials of those 32 meals at 50 cents each, that's $16 an hour in raw material costs. So for those 32 meals per hour, less than 4 of them go to paying the wage of those 4 employees per hour. Together, the employees, the labor cost is about $30 per hour. Which, subtract that from the $256 along with the $16, that would leave $210 an hour net profit for the employer, who, they just own the place. They haven't actually made any of the things. They haven't made the meals, they haven't sold the meals, they didn't prepare the meals, they didn't make the raw materials for the meals. They just own the place, and they're getting $210 an hour off of the labor of these employees who are making starvation wages. So $210 an hour over the course of an 8-hour workday is $1,680 a day in profit. If you double the wages of the employees so that they're earning $15 an hour individually, or for the 4 of them, $60 an hour labor cost, that would leave the employer with $180 per hour in profit, or per day, per 8-hour shift, $1,440 a day. That'd be great to make $1,440 a day, don't you think? So that's still pretty good. It's $240 a day less in profit for the employer, but now those employees don't have to worry about paying rent. They don't have to think about whether or not they should apply for food stamps. Those employees are now earning $30,000 a year, and they're solidly lower middle class. But what's the cost to the consumer? Let's say that hypothetically this employer needs to earn $1,680 per shift in profit, and so for that reason 100% of this added labor cost is going to be passed on to the consumer. 32 meals per hour at an 8-hour shift is 256 meals a day. That additional labor cost of only $240 a day, you just divide that over those 256 meals, and the resulting amount is that the consumer would need to pay an additional 93 cents per meal, bringing the cost of a fast food meal from $8 to $8.93. So you have to pay 93 cents more for your fast food meal. But now those employees who were working at starvation wages can now afford to participate in the economy. They now can afford to put money away in savings. They can now spend their money into the economy. I think that that's worth 93 cents per meal, personally. The cost to the consumer would likely not be noticeable. At least not if a business is following the pure logic of economics, of supply, demand, and all that jazz. A business could double the prices to $16 per meal and say that that's because of the minimum wage, and that makes a lot of sense to people who don't understand, microeconomics or how to run a business. But such an increase of doubling the price of products would be a PR move. It wouldn't be a sound business decision. It would be purely a political move to fight against paying workers a living wage. So, why should we have a living wage? It's the right thing to do, and it's not going to cost us that much. So, I say, if it's right and there's low costs, why not do it?